This is the China Hollywood Greenlight podcast, episode number 35.
And rolling sound. Quiet. Here we go. Ready.
Speeding.
120, take 7. And action.
This is Caryn McCann, the host of the China Hollywood Greenlight podcast, a podcast about creating and distributing content for both Hollywood and China. If you like the show, please go to iTunes or your favorite podcast app, subscribe, and leave a rating so other people can find this podcast. The more we work together, the more opportunities will be out there for everyone. Any links mentioned in the podcast can be found in the show notes at ChinaHollywoodGreenlight.com/podcast and look for this episode, which is number 35. Before I introduce today's guest, I'd like to start out with a motivational quote to encourage our listeners to continue on their path to achieving their own green light. And today's quote is from Dale Carnegie, and he said, "Develop success from failures. Discouragement and failure are two of the surest stepping stones to success." And now, a quick word from our sponsor. Today's podcast is sponsored by the China List. This is a membership website to connect industry pros and create jobs in Hollywood and China. Producers and talent reps, do you need a great Chinese or Western writer to assist with your projects? Can't trek to Hollywood or China? Want to find great material before anyone else? Well, membership is free. Writers, do you want your script seen in Hollywood and China? Do you want to decide who reads your scripts? Do you want to connect with a producer or talent rep? Do you want to find a Chinese or Western writing partner? Just go to the China List at www.chnlist.com. Once again, the China List website is www.chnlist.com. A quick few words on what I'm working on. I've made progress on 2 writing projects. One is a TV pilot that can be shot in the US or Asia. I'm doing a rewrite on it now. I'm also working on a low-budget action film to be shot in the US. It's a great experience because it's forcing me to be more creative and keep the locations and cast size down. Other news, as you know, I run the China List. I have a special writer's promotion where writers can sign up for a 60-day free trial. And as an added bonus, writers can now post tailored requests for a Chinese or Western writing partner on our private writing jobs page. It's free. Use this link to this special promotion. https://chnlist.com/promo. Again, https://chnlist.com/promo. Now here is the main segment. Today's guest is Marc Handler. Marc is a writer, producer, and international consultant at CCTV Animation, where he was a screenwriter for Perfect Dad, which is screening across China now. It's the #1 children's movie of the summer. Marc spent 5 years as an executive producer at the Walt Disney Company China, where he was EP and head writer on Stitch and I, which streamed on Disney Now in the US and was broadcast in China, Russia, and across Asia, and won the CCG Award for Best Series of 2017. From 2015 to 2018, Marc was the organizer of a series of 3-week educational programs where groups of Chinese professionals were invited to Los Angeles to network with Disney creators and learn about American methods of animation. Marc also gives workshops in China and in the US. In Beijing, he has spoken at the Great Hall of the People and at the Conference of Asian Civilization, which was hosted by President Xi Jinping. Well, Marc, that is quite a resume, and welcome and thank you for coming on the show today.
Hey, Caryn, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's start out with the basic question. Why did you want to enter the China market?
So I work across cultures. That's what I love to do. I worked in Japan and Korea. I've worked on projects in Spain and France. So when I got the chance to work in China, Chinese culture is among the richest in the world. It's very dynamic. It's evolving very rapidly in all kinds of surprising ways. So it's a really exciting place to be working right now. 20 years ago, Chinese students used to go to the West and study. And then when they were done, if they got a chance to stay there and work there, they would do it, But
Right.
now that's not the case anymore. They're all coming back to China because China is a very dynamic society right now, a lot of opportunities. So everybody's working here, and it's fun for me. I can say when I came to China, I kind of expected the worst. I didn't know what to expect living in Shanghai, and I thought it was going to be industrial and grim and that kind of thing. It turned out, it's very charming, very safe, really well-ordered, well-run society, and most importantly, the people that I work with, they're very positive, they're productive, they're smart.
Oh, that's great.
They're not cynical, they're negative. So they're really a pleasure to work with across the board.
Now, you mentioned work. What are 2 or 3 main tasks you do on a, quote, typical day? Not that there are typical days anymore, but.
That's true. That I used to work in offices at CCTV and Disney China, all of that. Now I work from home
Right.
since COVID, right? So it's completely different. I've got a apartment full of kids.
Okay,
So my typical task is I start writing, and then my little 5-year-old comes running in, flattens against the wall and says, Daddy, I'm camouflage. You can't see me. Right. So I have to stop working and say, where's Kai? I can't find him. He disappeared. And then he cracks up, because he loves to fool Daddy. Meanwhile, his cousin is shooting me with foam bullets from across the room, So, yeah, it's very distracting. It's like impossible to get anything done. And I absolutely love it. It's like I wouldn't trade it for anything. And my wife also works from home. She has her own business here. So the whole family's together all day. It's really wonderful. Wouldn't trade it. But the actual, to get to your real question, what I actually do during a day, it's writing,
Good.
research, texting, WeChat, Zoom meetings. And I'm working now on something new. It's a line of songs, educational children's songs for a Chinese, internet company. So through, the good moments in the day is when I get a new song. I'm the lyricist, so I'll get a new song from the composers. Yeah. So we get to listen to the song, and I'll play it for the kids and all, and we, walk around singing the song the rest of the day. So those are fun.
So are these songs are in Chinese?
These songs are in English because they're educational to teach English.
Oh, wonderful.
So that, yeah, that's the deal. We're teaching English to children, through music. So I've got a couple of just wonderful composers that I'm working with. And yeah, it's a new thing, a lot of fun.
Wow, that is a very unusual day for a writer. You're also a lyricist.
Isn't it?
That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, on your bio, you mentioned, you've done these animations, you've done films, you've worked all over the world. How do you find those business partners? And the second half of that question is, how do you suggest the listeners find perhaps a Chinese producer?
Yeah, it's there just isn't any way. The entertainment business, as you know, it's the word I think is Byzantine, which is it's just a tangle of connections. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So in my case, I ended up working in China. It really is just, people recommending you and that kind of thing. I ended up working in China through a recommendation from somebody who was working in Hong Kong, which I know you've lived in Hong Kong. He was an animation guy, told me that Disney might be looking for writers for a particular project. I contacted them, just casually WeChatting with them, and, a year and a half of like occasional non-pushy kinds of, contacts with them. And finally, came a day where they said, do you want to come to China and work on this project?
Wow.
I was like, had zero hesitation.
Oh, wow.
At that time, I was working for I was writing on the #1 boys action show in the world. And I was in my second season on that show. And the same day I called up the company and said, I'm quitting, bye-bye. That was it. I packed up my life. Within a few weeks, I was packed up and moving to China. And then that's it. That was in 2013. And no intention of ever moving back.
Wow. That's quite a jump. You decided when you went over there.
Quite a jump, right.
When you went over there, did you think, you said, I didn't think of going back. Did you think that before you left? Or you got there, loved it, and said, I'm not going back?
Well, that's a good question. The direct answer is I didn't know. But the longer answer is, I've been going, I've been going back and forth to Asia over the last 20 years. It's not like being here is new. And
that's true.
I think of it like an elastic band. When I first started traveling, it was like there's this elastic thing. You go, you travel, but that elastic is always pulling you back home. Right, and that elastic band, finished for me, ran out of elasticity years ago. So there's nothing particular pulling me back to the U.S. now.
Okay, well, you're a man of the world, so to say. Okay. So I guess for the listeners to find a Chinese producer, it is really connections. It is Guanxi.
It really is. And so my advice on that, how do you find a producer or the connections you need? I would say follow Caryn McCann's podcast and sign up for the China list, because seriously, you're really doing it. You're in the forefront of this.
Thank you, Marc. I did not, listeners, I did not pay for that ad.
No, but I am going to expect something for the plug later.
There you go. Okay. So now you lived all over the world, lived in China. You've done all these great projects. Let me ask you, what obstacle did you encounter on a past project? How did you overcome it, and what did you learn?
It's a great question, of course. It's a kind of core question. Two things come to mind. When I first went to China, I was working on this project you mentioned, Stitch and I. It's set in, I should mention it's based on Lilo and Stitch, of course. Sort of reset in China. And we started from day one, from scratch. We didn't know what it was going to be about, but we knew it was going to be Dongshimen Mountains for various reasons. That's in central China. It's in Anhui province. So we went there for research several times, climbed these beautiful, gorgeous mountains, and, got to know the region. And we would be hooked up with local officials. They would show us monuments, museums, all of this kind of thing. And they would tell us, sort of promote their region to us, which was all good. But there was a point at which I went, look, guys, this is a show about children, and it's for children. We need to meet children. We need to talk to children. We need to meet their parents. We need to meet their teachers and see their schools and see the way they live. I had to be really pushy about that. I had to be the foreign. I was the only, non-Chinese guy in our group, and I had to be kind of pushy and a little bit, maybe a little bit obnoxious and say, "Come on, guys, we need to make this happen." But it paid off. We did end up meeting the kids. We did end up going to their homes and schools and having long discussions with them and get insights into their life. And we also ended up, they want to control you a little bit about where you go. But we ended up breaking free from that, going into the mountains and that area, going down, country roads and just saying, okay, let's turn here. We had guides. We'd say, why don't we just turn down this road? We would show up unannounced at little villages, small towns.
Oh boy.
The people were always really kind, really welcoming. They were, it was kind of fun for them to have some people from outside connect with them. And, we were able to see the way they live. And I think that paid off. When we finished the series, a lot of the feedback we got was, even though we were an American company, was a Disney co-pro, a lot of the feedback we got was it was very authentic. It was presenting the region in a very authentic way. And, I think that, as you mentioned, it played in the US and in Russia. And so for me, that's kind of what it's all about. What we were able to do is take Chinese culture and share it with the world. And and what we're saying to kids and families in other parts of the world is, look, Chinese people are just like you. You're just like them. We can be friends. It's a really simple, basic message, but it's an important message. I feel like by doing this, we bring, in our small way, everybody has to do it in their own little small way. We push the world a little bit toward peace and friendship and a little bit away from hostility.
Oh, well, amen. You're preaching to the choir. So yeah, I completely, I completely agree. But that's a good point.
So
if you have an obstacle, it's not that you're aggressive, you're assertive. And this makes
right. Assertive, you have to be very nice about it, but yes, assertive is exactly right. You have to keep pushing. So yeah, the deal there, the takeaway there was, research is really, really important. A lot of production companies don't think it's important. They think it's some secondary little thing. Disney, very much stresses research. It's important. It's important to do it right.
Exactly.
I'll give you one other example, if you like, of an obstacle issue. Yeah. I think it's illuminating. On the show that's running now, that you mentioned, Perfect Dad, it's still on in the theaters. It's a film. That story, I pitched it. There was like 15 pitches to CCTV from 15 different writers, and it was selected. So I was like, my ego was definitely pleased by that. Once they pick it, they go into this very Chinese kind of process where they put the creative team together, and they send us outside as a group. They send us outside of Beijing to an outside of the city, and we all stay at one hotel out in the country. It's not exactly countryside, but it's kind of countryside. Anyway, we all stay in this hotel for a week, and we start to hammer out the story. So the group is the directors, in this case, Grace Liu and Mr. He. We had like a guy named Chen Yichang, who was a Disney animator for Disney features in the US for a long time, and a lot of other just wonderfully creative people, concept artists, producers. So we've got a group, 15 people maybe out there spending all day, every day together, very intense development. So it's a very cool, very typically Chinese process, and we become a team and all of that. Right. However, the obstacle comes in at the point that after the end of the week, they've got somebody writing everything down, right? All of the ideas that people have come up with and all of the ideas that we've agreed on. And then they hand it to me. So it's a stack of, here's all of the elements. Okay. Now it's my job to put them all together and create an outline, right?
Right.
So I looked at that moment. And I'm usually the guy who's like follows instructions and low maintenance. But I looked at that at that moment, and I went, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to patch together a story out of a bunch of different people's ideas and end up with a patchwork. I had pitched this story. I'd created. I had a pretty clear, I'm going to say very clear vision of the story. I had gotten a lot of great ideas from our group, but what I decided to do was take the ideas that I like and use them, the ideas that I don't like, reject them, and create the best story that I could create. Not a compromised story to make everybody happy.
Exactly.
But my best story. Yeah. And I decided I'm not going to write an outline. I'm going to write the script. So, I know, just an impulse, but I went with it. I just went to work like crazy. I knocked the script out very fast, and I turned the script into them. I thought, of course, I was worried that they were going to say, wait, what? You're not supposed to write a script. You were supposed to write an outline. And hey, what happened to all these great ideas that we had that you didn't include, right? So I was taking that chance, right? But it was a lucky moment where it really paid off. They never even mentioned the fact that I did not follow the instructions or any of that. The story worked. They liked it. And so we went from there. So, of course, we're still in development, many changes to the story after that, but they were all based on that foundation from that point forward, right? That became the foundation for yeah. So it started with a very clear vision and then built off of that. So, so what we had was a unified story, not a patchwork story. I had a little bit of pride of ownership. Hey, this is my story. But it also streamlined the development process. We jumped over a good 2 months easily of development. Wow. So, yeah. So the takeaway there is, exactly. Easier to beg for forgiveness. That was exactly it. So, I guess the takeaway is there are times to be low maintenance team player, but there are also times to stand up and say, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to stand up for my own vision of a story and go for it. That's
excellent. That really is, I think, a great idea. First of all, it's easier, like I said, to get forgiveness than get permission. And right. A story by committee is usually washed down or washed out. So yeah, good for you. That was a great idea, and I'm glad it turned out. So, good.
Thanks. It was lucky, a lucky chance.
Now, here's a similar question: if you could magically solve 2 current problems, what would they be?
Right. I love this question. Of course, it's a good writer's question because I get to use my imagination and my imaginative magic wand. So since you're giving me 2 of these, I'll point one of them at China and one of them at the U.S. To Chinese production companies, I would say, give more credence to the individual creators, give more emphasis to the individual creators. Zhang Yimou said, I'm quoting him, the more independent an artist is, the more special or unique his or her work is. So, a lot of the great creators in China are guys who are working with, from their individual artistic visions. People like Zhang Yimou, Wang Kar-wai, Zhang Wen, Zhao Zi, the guy who did Necha. These guys have their own individual way of working. They're not creating by committee. And you can see the result of that. They have very successful shows. Zhang Yimou is so interesting because he's this huge guy. You know about him, of course. He's hugely successful, but he still works as if he was a little independent, filmmaker. That's his mentality, and it keeps him, strong and interesting. So I would tell them, follow the Pixar example more, follow the Zhang Yimou's ideas more, which means trust your creator. Right. Give them the resources they need and the support they need to follow their vision. Don't treat the bottom line is don't treat writers and creators like interchangeable components.
Right.
So that's the old system in the U.S. and in China, where the executive producers, they have the money, so I have an idea for a story, and then they bring writers in and out as if they were components. It's not the right way to do it.
Right.
So yeah, trust your creators, support them.
Now, that was China. Now, China. So you sort of mixed in the U.S.
Right. Yeah, no. The U.S. one is different, and this is something that's really important to me as I think about this. Really deeply important to me. So I hope I can say it in a way without being too overly, passionate about it, because I am. But if I give a magic wand at the United States, it would be: stop bashing China, stop the fear mongering, stop the hate mongering. This is making it, among other things, it's making it more difficult for us to do the kind of co-productions and joint projects in China that we would like to do. And it's very recent that it's gotten this bad. The last year and a half, it has really ratcheted up. And I know, Caryn, you're all about putting co-pros together, which is like, that's great. That's what we need to do. it's good business, but it's also good for the world. I think it promotes friendship. So I'm sorry to see this happen. So I'm not going to give you. I've seen cases in the last year of co-pros falling apart because of this. Of the bad press between the U.S. I won't give you examples because they're too depressing, but I will. But I will mention. I won't give you my own personal examples, but we could talk about Mulan a little bit as a kind of classic example of this. And I want to try to be careful about this and not sound too political because I don't want to be that political guy. But it's hard to avoid it in this discussion. Mulan is not a Hollywood story. It's a 1,500-year-old part of Chinese culture, beloved part of Chinese culture. They got these wonderful Chinese actors to work on it. Donnie Yen, Jet Li, Yifei Liu, Chinese American actors like Jason Scott Lee. Hundreds of people put their hearts and talents into this show for years. My kids, by the way, love it. They watch it over and over. It's an aspirational story about a young Chinese woman who becomes a hero, and it comes out and it's attacked by U.S. senators who are pressuring directly and, strongly pressuring Disney to pull this from Disney Plus and not show it. Okay. So this has got to have a chilling effect on Chinese, co-production partners. And hard to talk about these things without pointing out these senators, American leaders who are doing this. These are people who constantly accuse China of censorship. And yet here they are trying to censor a movie in America, right? And they have no sense of the irony on that. The United States Senate right now, according to the latest Gallup poll, it has more than 80% disapproval rating of the American people. The American people do not trust and do not like their Congress. At the same time, Disney, let me look at the clash here. Disney is one of the most popular organizations in the world. Right? People love Disney because why? Happiest place on earth. They're all about spreading joy and friendship. And here's the Congress, which is all about spreading hatred and fear. And they're clashing, So, and why do they do this? Why does American leadership do this? It's because the American Congress cannot fix America, right? I'm sorry to say this straight up. You've got poverty, mass killings, homeless people in tent cities, mass incarcerations, decade after decade. They can't fix that. So what they can do is deflect your attention by blaming China. So that's what this whole thing is about. It's not conservatives, it's not liberals, it's everyone across the board, left to right. And it's not just the people. I'm sorry to go on, forgive me, but it's such an important topic for us that it's not just the guys at the top, it's Twitter mobs at the bottom. It's the people at the bottom doing the same thing. They attacked Mulan, as you probably know why, because Liu Yifei said one sentence on Twitter about Hong Kong that they didn't like, right? They have a name for these people in China. They're called keyboard heroes. So the keyboard heroes come out. Most of them, the Americans, they really know nothing about China at all. But it's Liu Yifei, who is a Chinese woman, she's making a statement about her own country, her opinion, and it was fairly mild, by the way, her opinion about her own country. And Americans think that they can tell a Chinese woman what she is allowed to say and not allowed to say about her own country. And they're going to punish her, not just by not saying, hey, Liu Yifei, let's have a conversation about this. No, they're going to slam and cancel and try to suppress the whole movie of Mulan because of that. So, you have these people just waiting to pounce on the top and at the bottom, waiting to pounce on any Chinese project. It's got to put a chill, in what we're trying to do. So
that could be true.
Yeah. So go ahead.
That could be true for many cultures. If American Chinese or anytime you are dealing with a culture that's foreign to yours, and this goes both ways, East and West and East, there's always going to be those people that are don't want to include foreign cultures. So that is an issue that, maybe film and TV, these joint projects where we have diversity, where we have different opinions, maybe that can open some minds. It's my mantra, hopefully.
Exactly. You're totally right. That's exactly what entertainment and art should be doing. It's opening up people's minds and let us share our ideas. Let's disagree with each other, but you have to do it with respect.
Yeah, I saw there's a van that parks in the park near us, and it's really funny because the guy on his van, he sells tea, and it says "Make tea, not war." Is that great?
Right.
I like that.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
So, and Caryn, you're doing this show. There
can only be one.
There can be, right. I read about that pitch. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
there can be only one.
There can be only one. That's right.
I got it. Yeah. So you're dealing with the whole issue of it's part of your story. Tell me if I got it wrong, but part of your story is that it's about the possibility if things go, it's a spy story, and if things go wrong, we can end up with World War III.
Exactly.
Did I get it right?
That's exactly right.
So that's a really important kind of story, and it sets the context for what we're talking about right now. I think, if we talk about these things and we don't put it in context, you don't really get it. If I can, there's 40, we had 40 years of hatred between China and the United States, and hatred between the United States and Russia. During that period of time, 1940s to 1980s, the result of that, we treated each other as enemies. And the result of that was that we built 70,000 active nuclear weapons. This is the most dangerous thing that has ever happened in the history of the world. It's no joke. It's hard to wrap your head around how dangerous that was. In the 80s, that changed. We normalized relationships with China and with Russia. We stopped treating them as enemies. We decommissioned over 60,000 nuclear weapons. The world became a vastly safer place as a result of that. And what's happening today is our leaders are reversing that. They're again treating China and Russia as enemies. This is good for politicians. It's good for the media. It's good for arms manufacturers. It's terrible for us. You have American generals going on mainstream media today saying we need to rebuild the stockpile of nuclear weapons in America. This is, it's just, you can't express how dangerous this is. So what I'm saying is, yes, it's bad for business in the entertainment business, but that's a small part of a much bigger, very dangerous picture. So we need to push back against that.
Well, there's also, there's got to be a little pushback as far as you were saying how China, you hope, one of the obstacles is giving artists independence and, trust the artist. There's a lot of, we all know about the censorship issues in China. The challenge with China is that you have these movies where, there's no bad cops, there's no ghosts, there's, you have to really,
that's right.
You have to paint within the lines. And that's an opportunity for, some new ideas. If there's some, maybe eventually they'll develop some rating system so that they can tell the audience, this is for kids, this is whatever. Until they get that, I think there's going to be a problem writing. If you can't be too bold with your writing style with the current censorship structure. But anyway, I won't get into politics. Let me ask you this. What sort of projects are you looking to do? I know you're doing a live action film in Taiwan. And what do you think the Chinese producers are looking for?
So you mentioned the conference on Asian civilizations that I attended in Beijing. Was hosted by President Xi Jinping. They had diplomats and media leaders from all over the world. It was really a stupendous event. It was really exciting to be part of it. And the whole purpose of that was, answering your question, was to say, this is what China wants to do. They want to take their culture and share it with the world. How do we do that? That's what the entire conference was about. And so that's the answer to the question. What do Chinese production companies want and media companies want? They want to share their culture with the world. And that's more important than the profit bottom line. My message to them was, lead with your heart, lead with your humanity. Don't lead with your ideology. Don't lead with your ideas. Share your human commonality with the world. That's the way we connect. Nothing I've been saying is meant to say Americans should agree with the Chinese system or their way of doing things or the censorship issues that you raised. Everybody has to decide that for themselves, right? But I am saying you need to inform yourself properly. You need to find out the truth. So that means don't listen to the Chinese government or the Chinese press. Don't listen to the American government or the American press. They all have their agendas. I think the best people to listen to are scholars. Even they can be biased, but still, if you look at scholars and independent voices, you can start to find people who will tell you the truth about China. So I think, if you want to work in China, you need to make that effort to try to find out what the facts are, and then use your critical judgment to come to your own conclusions. So the answer to your question is, if you can help them, if you can come to China and help them share their culture with the world, you're doing what they want. But let me, if I may, expand on that a little bit, because the question of what they want is a good question. But there's another question that goes with that, which is what they need. The old Rolling Stone song, you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need. I think China has needs that they don't know they need. One of them is, I think they have a serious, it's clear, it's not I think, it's clear that they have a serious talent management problem. That sounds like it's small, but it isn't. It's big. Without going into all the details, I think what they need, for example, is agencies. And you're kind of working on that already. You're already like a step ahead on that. I think what you're doing is really important because of that. With your China list, you're addressing that issue. But I'm talking about within China, not just for Westerners, but within China. What they need is agencies that can do talent outreach, find talent, train and develop talent, and then manage talent, making them available to Chinese production companies on a fair basis. Right now, it's like the Wild West. It's really hard for the production companies. It's really hard for the talent, and it's bad for the Chinese entertainment industry. The only people that it's good for is the stars. If you're a star writer and a star actor, man, the world is your oyster. You can make amazing, ridiculous demands and get them met. But it's bad for everybody else. So I think this is something Americans know how to do. It's something we could come to China and help them with. And the thing is, my real key point here is, if you go to China thinking, hey, what can I get from the system? That's the wrong approach. You want to go there and say, what do they need? How can I help them build their own system? And if you can do that, you become part of their ecosystem. And then, then all kinds of opportunities open up.
Well, I have an opportunity for you. Down the road, you said that you gave workshops in China and the U.S., bringing writers to learn about American animation. Now, here's an idea: bring American talent agents to China. And anyway, this is totally off subject, but anyway, that's something to think about. Doing this cross-cultural sharing of information. And I have experienced that myself with China, trying to find a star. Who's the manager? Who's the agent? Well, who knows? And they're not all on IMDb. And then you have to go through all this list of directors or production assistants and try to talk to them. And anyway, Yes.
It's not just that, it goes beyond. I mean, I know you know more about this than I do because you've lived there, but it's this Guanxi system that they have. Even if you know the address or the email, you can't just show up and say, hi, I want to talk to you. You have to be connected through.
Exactly.
And it has to all through, set protocols. Yeah, it's very complicated. What would I love your idea about bringing agents to China. What would the key things you would expect them to share?
Well, because I've experienced this issue, and you hit the hammer, the nail of the hammer, or the hammer on the head, whatever that phrase is. Talent management is a problem. And they could really, I think this is where Americans, been doing it for 100 years or years.
Right.
We have it down pat, and it's so easy to figure out who represents who. This is what China needs.
Right.
So
right. Yeah, I see your point. You would have to retailer it. You couldn't bring the American system to China as it is. No. But you can start with that and then say, okay, how do we need to customize this so it's going to fit China? And I think that could be really fruitful. I think your idea is great to connect up talent agents in China.
That'll be part of the China list. Okay.
Excellent.
That was let me ask you this, although I think you gave yourself already a surprise question. My next question was going to be, what question did I not ask you that I should have? But you already.
Oh yeah, no, you missed a really important question.
Which is,
what's the best restaurant in Beijing? And I'm going to say Blossom Vegetarian, which is in the Dongcheng district. It's just to die for. You don't have to be a vegetarian. I go there with big groups of people, none of whom are vegetarians, and it's fantastic. So strongly recommend it.
Thank you for that tip.
And if you are a vegetarian, you can eat Peking duck, delicious Peking duck without the duck. So.
What advice can you give those aspiring to tap into the Chinese market? You've given a lot so far, but just to wrap it up.
Fries, listen to me. So, I think of, on that score, I think of John Kennedy's famous statement, a kind of reversioning of that. He said, don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. I think when you approach another country, it's the same thing. Right. You can't show up and say, well, wow, they have a big market. What can I get from them? You have to show up and say, what can I give them?
Right.
Can you bring them skills? Can you bring them investment? Can you bring them distribution? Can you bring them specialized knowledge? Like we were just talking about the agents. What can you bring them? That's going to make you valuable to them, and then be prepared to share that generously with them. As you mentioned, I do a lot of speaking for the Ministry of Culture in China, universities, etc. And then you have to take a long view. Chinese culture is famous for the long view. They're very explicit about it. You know what I'm talking about. Whereas America is famous for the short view, quick get in, get out kind of approach. So in China, you have to take the long view. You have to go there and be prepared to put in a lot of time and effort. And you always have to make sure it's a win-win situation. That's their philosophy when they go to other countries, and you need to come to their country with that idea. Whatever it is that you're presenting, it's about how it's going to benefit them and you at the same time, so everybody benefits. The one other thing I would mention on that is something that, again, you're ahead of the curve on. Partner with Chinese writers. I've been living in China a long time. There's no way I could write a script for China myself. It's just not possible. I can write a story, I can structure a story, but I must partner with Chinese writers. And I know you're already trying to do that. Part of your effort, Caryn, is to hook up Chinese and American writers, which is terrific. It's
Thank you.
Absolutely necessary. If you're American and you think, hey, I can write a good story, about dragons, no, it's not going to happen. You need to partner up. And quickly, to give some some context for that, if you look at a movie like The Great Wall, it has a 35% rating on critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 40% among the public. I mean, it was not a well-liked movie. No Chinese writers. All of the writers who wrote the story and the script are all Westerners. So you have a story that's just not going to resonate with Chinese people. And we talked about Mulan. Mulan is the same. I love that. I love the effort, but they made a big mistake by not including Chinese writers.
Right.
And it didn't resonate with Chinese people the way we wanted it to. And if you compare that, for example, to Coco, the Pixar film.
Right.
That was right. It was developed by Lee Unkrich. He's a white guy, been at Pixar forever. It was his baby. But of course, he brought in a Mexican co-author on it because that's how you got the authentic feel of Coco. And, it worked for both cultures very, very well. So you need to partner up. That's also, an important part of the equation.
Good. That's I'm with you as far as, you need that authentic voice, that's
right.
If you want to partner with someone, you can do it. You just have to reach out. Now, in conclusion, would you like to share any social media details or website links?
Sure. You can reach me on LinkedIn or WeChat under my name, which is MarcHandler, all one word. If you mention this podcast, I'm happy to hook up. My website is also marchandler.com.
Okay, great. Well, Marc, this has been very entertaining and very enlightening. So thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge with the audience.
Thank you for having me. It's a big pleasure to be able to talk about these things. I hope we can continue the conversation.
Of course. And we'll see you at the premiere.
Great.
And now for my 3 key points and 3 takeaways. Number 1, stand up for your vision. Marc talked about a time he cut the script development process down by ignoring notes and just wrote the script. Note, he beat out the competition for this job based on his take on the story. Now, this is an extreme case, but it shows there are times you can be a team player and there are times you need to stand up for your vision. In the end, it worked out for Marc. So pick your battles carefully. Number 2, China bashing. There's a lot of China bashing in the U.S. and a lot of U.S. bashing in China. My podcast isn't about politics, but about cooperation. But cooperation with your eyes open. This means that your partners protect your copyright. Do your due diligence. As Marc says, look for facts, not opinions. Number 3, the Pixar method. Marc hopes Chinese and American studios will stop treating writers as interchangeable parts. He suggests studios use the Pixar method. Now, a typical studio has a development team or corporate execs who come up with movie ideas. At Pixar, which made blockbuster animations such as Toy Story, Cars, Up, The Incredibles, Finding Nemo, etc., they use incubation teams, small incubation teams made up of a director, usually the one with the idea, a writer, and some storyboard artists. Pixar bets big on these small teams, gives them enormous leeway and support. No wonder they are so good at what they do. I will attach an article link called The Uniquely Powerful Reason Why Pixar Movies Are So Good. You can find it in the show notes. And 3 takeaways. Number 1, think win-win. Don't ask what China can give you. Figure out what you have to offer. Skills, investment, distribution, specialized knowledge. Make it mutually beneficial, and you will have a better chance of getting hired or launching a joint venture. Number 2, Chinese writing partners. Now, Marc mentioned some of his success in China is due to the fact that he partnered up with a Chinese writer, a Chinese writing partner. So, writers, if you want to sell your script to China or find a Chinese financier, the best way is to start with the script and partner with a Chinese writer. You can do this on my website, The China List. You can sign up for a free trial and post a tailored request for a Chinese writer or Western writer with China experience on our Writing Jobs page. Just use the link https:// CHNLIST www.china.com/promo. Number 3, talent reps. As Marc said, China has a serious talent management problem. Here's an opportunity. Whether you're a talent rep or just someone who can coordinate an event, there's a job for you. This is a golden opportunity for some smart person to be the problem solver to make hiring Chinese talent easier. I hope the China list will help producers find writers in the East and the West. And I have another opportunity. If you go to my website, you can register as an actor, a director, or a filmmaker. If there's enough of a demand, I'll start a database for actors, directors, and film crews to get jobs in Hollywood and China. Just go to the China list website at www.CHNLIST.com. Again, CHNLIST.com, and register on the How to Work with Us page. Well, that's the show. Thank you for listening. Please leave a rating on your favorite podcast app. These reviews really do help spread the word about the podcast. And I'll see you at the premiere. Bye. 一会儿见.